Hey everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. If you're new here, my name's Anthony. I'm a business profit advocate. Here we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals, and people just doing cool things. For example, today we're talking with Scott Howard. He's the owner of RealScape Media, where they use a unique approach to entice people into your business. How you doing today, Scott?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain, and if I did, nobody'd listen. So,
Same.
where you calling in from?
I'm calling in from the Salt Lake area in Utah.
Okay. Are you new there? You've been there your whole life or
Relatively new, been here since just before the pandemic, so about 5 years now, I guess.
okay, I got you. How you liking it?
It's a good area. I live a little bit south of Salt Lake, so a little bit out of the city. Close enough that I can get to the city whenever I want, but out a little ways, so housing's a little bit cheaper and kind of out in the country a little bit.
Awesome, awesome. Well, what's fun out there? You don't really hear people, brag about, oh, come to Salt Lake City and do X. So what's that look like?
Oh, I mean, Salt Lake City, the in the winter, which we're coming up on, there's always the snow, right? The skiing and snowboarding and things out Park City, which is nearby. But I mean, in the summer, there's tons of hiking, mountain biking, trails, all sorts of things to do outdoors, camping. I mean, Utah is a really great place for outdoor activities, and it's one of the reasons I really love this state.
Yeah, awesome. I'll have to check it out. I've never made it out that way, but I'd really like to. So yeah, awesome. Yeah, that all sounds great. What can you tell us about RealScape Media? What do you do?
So RealScape Media actually started because of the pandemic. I had moved here for a job, and then, like a lot of people, pandemic hit and people started losing their jobs. And I was one of those. And couldn't really get another job in my previous sector because everybody was kind of laying off and downsizing and so on. So I decided to go into a trade. Um, and I picked up photography. And I know a lot of people do photography. But I started doing real estate photography because, at that time, the real estate market kind of started getting hot. So I started testing out the waters. I worked for a couple different people, learning the skill set and so on. And eventually I struck out on my own, and that's when RealScape Media was created. Started doing real estate photography initially, and I discovered um, I didn't really enjoy the real estate photography side, but I really enjoyed the 3D side, the 360 photography side. And I started exploring different ways to use that and making up different ways to use that. And RealScape Media just kind of evolved from there.
Okay. Yeah, and you really do take a unique approach with, as opposed to just like a video of something or, you're really using that 3D. How did that come about? Like you said, you liked it, but was it just your experience in the real estate side and you're like, oh, I could use this elsewhere, or what kind of got that going?
Yeah, so it was the real estate side. That's where I started, right? And I did a lot of 3D tours for houses. I've done the biggest house in the state of Utah, one of my claims to fame, I guess. Um, it's enormous. It's 55,000 square feet, just a monster of a house. But even doing houses like that, the big houses out in Park City and so on, it just it wasn't interesting. It was kind of boring. Once you've done one house, you've kind of done them all. It's all the same thing, go down the hallway into the door frame. Da, 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 da. There's a real pattern to it. I mean, I could very easily write like an operating procedure to shoot a house, whether it's a trailer or a mansion. And so it wasn't engaging. And I, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, who knows, tend to get bored kind of easily. So I started looking for other ways to use 360 photography. I started experimenting with a lot of different things. I've so I started trying to do businesses. I started trying to do events, um, and a lot of these I would just kind of make it up as I went, and a lot of them didn't turn out. But then slowly I started figuring out what worked and how to marry kind of a real creative approach for each business with a very sound technical base.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. You start somewhere and then you really hone down onto, where your passion actually lies. So with what you're doing now, what's your favorite thing about what you're doing?
It's different all the time. And I love meeting people. That's the biggest thing. So um, shooting businesses is great because typically I shoot them once, maybe a couple times over the course of, 5 years or so. But I typically shoot them once. So I get to meet a lot of people. I'm not just working for the same company over and over and over. I work for a lot of different people. I get to meet a lot of different people, and I get to help a lot of people, right? Small businesses are always kind of struggling to figure out, where do we put our advertising dollars? Where do we put our limited budget, right? Because when it's a small business, a lot of that money comes home to support the family, and then then there's a limited amount that stays in the business to help it grow. And I just love that what I do really takes those dollars and multiplies their value. Uh, so that's my favorite part about working with small businesses. With events, it's just fun because there's so many people. It's so interesting, and you always have to be on your toes to shoot an event. Because although the technical base is the same, it's a really dynamic environment. And for photography, that's a lot more difficult. And with flat photography, that's one thing. But when it's 360, you can't pick and choose your shots. You see everything. And so if the lighting is good on one side of the camera, but bad on the other, that's a challenge that you have to kind of work with. So I love the challenge of it with event shooting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never actually thought that deep into it, but you're right. You can definitely with flat shooting, you can really say this is what I want it to look like exactly. But 360 is, well, there's a lot of variables to take into account. So that's awesome. So you've been doing it long enough. You definitely, have some hard won lessons learned. What's something that you would, like to share, or like something that maybe you do different today if you were starting out?
Honestly, well, I mean, if I was starting out now, I'd be a lot more proficient starting out. Uh, but really, I honestly wouldn't change a whole lot of things. You learn by doing, and a lot of people don't like to fail and make mistakes. And that's one of the things I learned early on in life is, you want to be good, you want to be the best, you want to do something interesting. In my case, you're going to fail sometimes, a lot of times. The very first event I shot, I mean, I'm embarrassed at how badly it turned out. It looks awful. I won't even look at it. I have it saved somewhere to, as kind of a before and after kind of thing, right? But it looks terrible, and I didn't even want to deliver it to the client. They wanted it, and so I did deliver it, but I didn't want to because it looked that bad. Thankfully they didn't pay me for it because I was just doing it for the experience. But really being willing to put in that sweat equity, that time, that effort, and sometimes the embarrassment of going and not knowing what you're doing. With the first few events I did, I was straightforward. I said, hey, nobody's taught me how to shoot events. Nobody really shoots events like this. And so I'm making it up as I go. So understand that the final product might not look that great, but it'll help me, be better. And then when we, come around to your event next year, I guarantee you that it'll look a lot better. So you have to learn to fail, and you have to learn to just kind of take embarrassment on the chin sometimes.
That is really important to do. It doesn't matter what your industry is. You got to figure that out, and you're going to figure it out one way or another. So that's awesome. What obviously you can help a wide group of people, from events to businesses. What's an average client look like, or what's a good introduction for you? Somebody that you're going to be able to help.
Honestly, any small business with a brick and mortar. I really love helping small businesses. Because like I said, I can really help their advertising dollars stretch out. I had one, I just love this little case study. I was out shooting some campgrounds, and I went out to a lake nearby just to get some, local attractions shots. And I met a couple guys who ran a houseboat business, renting houseboats out on that lake. And they asked me to just take one 360 picture inside their houseboat. And I said, you know what, I've got a little bit of extra time. I'll do you one better. I'll do a whole tour of one of your houseboats. And they were pretty excited about that. And for me, it took me, 15, 30 minutes of shooting and maybe a couple hours of editing to put it together. So I gave them 2, 3 hours of my time. And then I sent it off to them and just said, here you go. Good luck kind of thing. They came back to me a month and change later, all excited that they had booked out their boats more than ever that year. And it just if I had charged them for that tour, it probably would have been, 600, 800 bucks, right? Just kind of the value of it. But the value to them was probably in the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And so I what would have been, let's say, $1,000, I multiplied by 10 times to the value of 10 grand, for the amount of houseboats that they used that tour to rent. And that was just last year. That's not counting this year or next year or the next year. This kind of this kind of vehicle is really, really useful over time. Um, Getting more and more people on it, getting more views, deliberately driving people to it so it familiarizes them with your business and it breaks down psychological barriers so that they're way more likely to actually engage with your business, to enter your business. There's a reason why fast food chains do so well. It's because they're familiar. We know exactly what we're going to get when we walk into a McDonald's or a Walmart. And so we just keep going back to them, even though the food or the service may not be the best. We at least know what we're getting. But if we're going to, mom and pop shop down the street, we don't necessarily know what kind of experience we're going to have. And 3D tours help to overcome that barrier in a safe place for the end user. They can view it from their home, no judgment, no one watching them. And so then it kind of gets over that barrier, and then they're more likely to enter the business and become a patron.
Yeah, that's awesome. Before you told that story, because we talked about this before, I never knew your industry existed, and the fact that it can be used in such a proficient or great way is really like it's kind of feels like one of those things that it's going to become more common because it works so well that it's just a lot of folks don't know about it and need to. So that's awesome. What about like power partners, people that you synergize really well with, you can refer back and forth with?
I love uh, Google people who optimize Google business profiles, because I can put my 3D tours on Google, and it's a really great way to get to get ranked and to kind of synergize with the whole thing. There really is a great synergy with the whole Google ecosystem, Google, YouTube, and so on, because you want Google to rank your website. And so you get a 3D tour on your website and on your Google profile, your Google My Business profile. So, people either stay on that the tour on the profile, which ranks it higher, or they stay on the one on your website, which ranks it higher. We can also take a few videos of you and your business talking about it and embed it inside the tour. Put them on YouTube, embed them in the tour. So now not only are they on your website on your tour, but they're also on your YouTube at the same time. And so all those things contribute to helping businesses rank higher. So I love Google marketing experts. Those guys are awesome. Um, I also love event planners, especially kind of higher end ones, because I mean this is a little bit of a higher end service for events. But anyone who plans large scale events like trade shows and expos, high end weddings, high end parties, that sort of thing. This is an amazing thing for that, and I've shot several of those. And it's great, especially for the kinds of events that cycle year after year, because you can on on the one hand, it tells people, look, this is what it was last year. Now you want to be a sponsor because you see how many people we had attending last year. Yes, you want to be a sponsor. Um, and two, you can kind of build up a library showing how the event has grown. It's a lot more effective than just regular photography to showcase how an event has grown year over year.
That's interesting. Yeah, you definitely when it comes to, having something on Google rank, you want as many eyes on your page or on your stuff for as long as possible. And something like a 3D tour that would definitely keep them there way longer than here's a photo.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Yeah.
Photos are so 1990s, honestly. I tell people back in 1900, having a shop on Main Street was probably enough, right? You'd probably get your business, you had a shop on Main Street. By the 1990s, you were kind of moving into, hey, we need a website now. Early aughts, you're looking at, hey, now we need a website with decent pictures and things. Late aughts, early teens, you're looking, you need video, you need your social media. Late teens, you're really getting into kind of the diverse social media scene, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that. But if you only have a website with pictures, I mean, you're still stuck in the early aughts. Yeah, that was 20 years ago. Where's the world going now? Everything now is about virtual reality, and enhanced reality. So VR, XR, all those things, that is where the world is going. And if you're not on it, you're going to be behind. And right now, I mean, it's really not that expensive even now, even as the na industry is fairly nascent. It's not that pricey. And at least with me, I can do it in such a way that you don't have to pay an ongoing subscription cost, which a lot of 3D shooters require an ongoing subscription cost. I don't. And that's one of the big advantages I give to small businesses. I might be slightly pricier up front, but that's because I build it custom for every client, and you don't have to keep paying over time. I mean, what is even 10, $20 a month over 5 years adds up a lot.
That's really interesting. Yeah, anything that's going to set you apart to put you, a step ahead of your competition is going to be huge. And
Mhm.
it seems like that's exactly what you're doing. Is there anything that I failed to ask that you wanted to mention?
Just that no matter how big or small the business or how boring or interesting the business is, it can benefit from a 3D tour. I've done law offices and CPAs. I've done countertop factories. I mean, if you think those things are interesting, well, more power to you. But most people find those not that interesting, but they still benefit from a 3D tour. So no matter what business or industry you are in, you can benefit from it. And I'm definitely one of the more creative ones that can figure out how best to showcase you and your industry.
Perfect. And they absolutely should get a hold of you. So what's the best way they do that?
Best way, either email or LinkedIn. My email, scott@realscapemedia.com. You can email me directly. And LinkedIn, I'll give you my link so people can connect with me.
Perfect. And anybody out there that's, even remotely interested in seeing what he can do, absolutely check it out. It's pretty impressive. So reach out to him. I'll share his links in the description so you don't have to hunt for it. If you're shy and you want an introduction, ask me. I'm happy to make that three-way introduction for you as well. But if anybody else out there would like to be interviewed, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll have my link tree with my socials and my counter link in it. So feel free to do that. But otherwise, Scott, I really appreciate you coming on. Hope you have an awesome day, and let's all get out there and meet some new people. All right.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You as well.